Three, two, one, start. Please tell us your name and the title of your project.
My name is Sarim Aleem. The title of my project is an exchange between the Potsdam Conference, an exchange between nations.
Great. And how did you choose to work on this particular topic?
Well, I cycled through many possibilities. My initial ideas revolved around the Russian Revolution and the Imperial Dynasty. However, I kind of threw that away because there wasn't a lot of exploration and counter-exchange in that. And so later, I leaned towards other ideas. My advisors advised me about two journalists, Sigrid Schultz and Bella Fromm. However, I threw that out too because I really wasn't that interested in journalists. And then finally, I got suggested this idea. I was actually quite curious at first, and then I really decided to do this because it had a really big impact on the world, and I thought it would be really interesting to do.
All right. So I know that we have your bibliography, right, with all of the sources you've used. How did you go about conducting your research? What was your process?
Well, so here's how I did it. So we had our secondary sources. I generally looked at all the basic websites first, just the U.S. Department of State, history.com, and then as I got the basic broad idea, I kind of went really in depth. I kind of read a lot more books, and I did a lot more research. I did look at more primary sources, for example, Harry Truman's diary, and a lot of memoirs and journals and stuff like that. And
Good.
I also looked at some archived newspapers from the time.
And what would you say was, looking back now, is there one source that you thought, wow, that was really critical? What was your best source?
Yeah, so I think it was this one book that I read, Between War and Peace, the Potsdam Conference by Herbert Face. It was really important. Because it was the author was actually present at the Potsdam Conference, and he had a lot of the details that I needed for the project. So he had a lot of the actual quotes and a lot of the actual exchanges and encounters and the exploration that actually happened inside the Potsdam Conference.
Right. So it's clear, right, you decided to do this project as a website.
Yeah.
How did you make that decision? Why not one of the other categories? Why not work in a group? So how did you arrive at this decision?
Well, I actually did think about doing a lot of the other categories. I wanted to do I did actually think about doing a documentary. However, that would be really difficult because I would have to act out 3 different characters, and I'm only one person.
Oh, you mean for performance?
Yeah, sorry, performance.
Yeah, okay.
My mistake. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I thought about a documentary. I just really wasn't interested in doing the video.
Okay.
I actually did think quite a bit about an exhibit. However, an exhibit just didn't give me the flexibility that I needed. Once I created something, it'd take a lot more time to edit it. And also, it's just art isn't really my thing. And plus, I had a really busy schedule, so I couldn't just go in whenever I wanted, just work on my NHD project. So, the other thing, I also considered doing an essay. However, I just didn't really feel like an essay communicated my ideas. I thought a website, because I could use images, I could use a lot more quotes easily, and I could just it would just be a lot more easier to communicate my ideas.
All right. Can you show me a couple of what you think are some of your better pages on here, the ones you really like? Anything interesting you'd like me to see, for sure?
Sure. So, this is my leaders page.
Okay.
And so I have all the descriptions of the leaders, and plus I have a photo gallery over here.
Oh, cool.
Another one of the website pages that I think is one of my favorites, the attitudes one, on preparations. So this has a lot of details. This is Truman as he tours his ship, and this is Stalin over here about his attitude towards the Potsdam Conference. Another one that I really worked hard on was his territory one. So I just really used quite a few maps over here.
All right, thanks. Come on back over. So, what was challenging to you that you perhaps didn't expect would be challenging?
Challenging for me? Well, a lot of the things, because I was new, I really had to familiarize myself with a lot of concepts in NHD, like, for example, citing every source, annotating every source, and using a lot of primary sources, really digging deep into the project. Plus, NHD was actually quite a bit of work, so I really had to kind of cut out a lot of the free time in my schedule, which I would actually spend, hanging out with friends, and actually working on this project and getting things done.
Great. So this year there's a theme. How does your topic fit with the National History Day theme for this year?
So, I assumed that the original intention for the people who created this theme was to actually physically explore, encounter, and exchange all the things. However, my topic is kind of unconventional in the way that the leaders actually explore and exchange different ideas and solutions to the problems that are in Europe and World War II right now, and they also encounter many difficulties while they're doing their negotiations. So it's not really physically exploring, encountering, exchange. It's more like,
intellectual.
Yeah, intellectual.
Okay, good. So you've spent a lot of time with the Potsdam Conference. Clearly, you know a lot about it. What would you tell to somebody, perhaps other 8th graders or perhaps an adult who doesn't know so much about it? Why is this significant? Why is this an important event?
Well, it is quite an important event because this happened at the end of World War II, like things were getting tense, and arguably, like as I have said in some of my other pages, that the Potsdam Conference has great consequences. It changes diplomacy. Diplomacy isn't really friendly anymore. It's becoming more tense and more nationalistic. It also, in a way, kind of starts the Cold War because a lot of people are a lot of the leaders and nations are just grabbing after territory, kind of forming enemies with each other, even though they were once an alliance. A good example of that is the United States and the Soviet Union.
Right, perfect example of that. All right, and what have you learned in the process of doing this? And you can either tell me about the process or the actual Potsdam Conference. What was surprising? You're like, wow, I never would have expected that.
Well, really everything. I learned quite a lot because NHD is I guess you could really diving into history and looking at it from a historian's perspective. So, I mean, although I did learn a lot about the Potsdam Conference because I read newspapers, journals, articles, and books, I've also learned to kind of use primary sources, and I've learned how to cite sources. I've learned if a source is really trustworthy or not, if it's really relevant or not, and I've learned how to annotate a lot of sources too.
All right. So, as you know, right, this is a contest, and we'll be looking at all the other websites in your category, and we'll be selecting the top 2. So my question to you is, if your project were to be one of those 2 that go on to nationals, what changes would you like to do to improve your project as it stands now?
Well, there are quite there are not many changes. It's just really some of the stuff, because I have all the main ideas down on my website. It's just some of the little things that I would like to change. For example, if I have any grammatical errors or if any spelling errors, or if I'd like to add a few more quotes in and things like that.
Okay.
Or put a few more images in too.
More images.
And maybe a gallery.
Okay. And I guess when I'm looking at your project, and you talked a little bit about the significance and why it's important, how is it connected to what's happening in the world today? Do you have any sense about events that happened here and how they're playing forward to today?
So events in the Potsdam Conference that kind of led up to the modern events?
Sure.
Well, there are so for some modern events the Soviet Union and the United States, really the Potsdam Conference is when things started to get tense, and I guess that really started the Cold War, which kind of started an enemy thing with the United States and the Soviet Union and things like that.
Okay.
And a lot of the territorial negotiations that took place at Potsdam were also kind of affect a lot of Europe today too.
do you have any like specific examples where you might see the United States and Soviet Union or Russia today, you know, conflicting over a particular issue or an event? Do you have any?
Well, the Ukraine crisis.
Okay.
Like it's kind of similar to like back then, because back then it was Poland that the Russia was really grabbing after,
Okay.
and now it's kind of like Ukraine. Yeah.
Okay, good. And now that you're kind of at this sort of, you know, milestone, and congratulations, by the way, for really working hard on a project. Is there anything else you'd like to say, or, you know, tell the judges while you have a moment with this in front of you?
Well, I'd like to say that like I really worked hard on this, and then like it took a lot of work to do this, but I think I've learned quite a lot throughout this project. I've learned, and I think it's really been worthwhile doing this NHD. Although I did have quite a few doubts in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like all was rewarded, all my hard work.
All right, very good. Well, thank you so much for your time. Let me shake your hand here, young man.
Thank you.
Well done.